lively with picture sheets full. My thoughts on hatred swirling around us today. Quote, as a mother of 3 young adults who now have lockdown in their vernacular every time they enter a school building, I find it horrifying that this is the world we live in. We take for granted that our loved ones will always come home, but that is no longer the case. So hug each other tighter each day. And the title of her speech is, What Motivates You?
I'm not breaking its uniformity by using props.
I can hold it to the side.
Stand with the photos to the side.
Here, you want me to just hold it?
Yeah,
Okay. Here, she'll hold it.
Follow
This should account for her time.
Just hold it.
No, it shouldn't. Yeah, that's what.
Okay. Just making sure.
Good afternoon. Having recently been laid off, I've been asked this question many times in interviews. What motivates you? From a professional standpoint, I usually answer with trust or respect or ownership of my work. But when I sit down and think about what motivates me, I find that it's actually the people in my life who I love, my constant drive for self-improvement, and my joy of giving to others. And for me, these 3 things equate a very full life. But I'm going to start at the beginning of my journey, a story that starts with another amazing lady, my mom, or Mommy, as you'll hear me call her. Her drive and her work ethic, her love for her family, and her commitment to self-improvement were traits that I believe were passed down to me, and these traits are what have shaped me today. I was born in Cuba, and I came to this country with Mommy when I was very young. Mommy was a young lady of 24 who sadly was on her way to a divorce from my birth father, who happened to be a philanderer. She wanted a better life than what was available to her by staying in communist Cuba, where she watched the culture and the communities that she had known all her life slowly be destroyed. Courageously, she boarded a freedom flight in 1969, grabbed her baby and 40 pounds of clothes, which is all that they would let her take, and left everything she knew behind. We arrived in the U.S., and we were helped by close family and friends who came before us. Mommy was determined to make it in America. She went to school. She became a citizen, as did I. She got remarried, and she began her career in IT. At the time of her passing in 2010, with 2 master's degrees, 3 adult children, 9 grandchildren, a beautiful house in Florida that she shared with her 3rd husband, and a successful career as a business analyst, many would say she did just that, even if cancer took her too soon. Mommy overcame and succeeded, so I live to honor her legacy every day in the same way, even when I fail. When I was married the first time as a young woman, I believe I was a little bit more self-centered and materially focused than I am today. I believe that it took going through a divorce, losing parts of my family, and facing financial devastation to be humbled enough to pull myself up by my bootstraps and find the gumption to continue on. This is where my motivators came into play. Caring for those who I adore, my 3 children, and a genuine desire to improve my situation. Although I had a bachelor's degree in social work and a prior career as a licensed social worker of 20 years, I knew as a single parent it was time critical that I made changes, especially with these 3 children to co-parent now with my ex-husband. An online job change assessment revealed that I would be most proficient in communications. Who knew? And thus I embarked onto my 12-year career as a writing and marketing professional. I started as a freelance journalist for a weekly newspaper, and from there I thought, my town doesn't have its own magazine. I think I'll start my own. I took some of my savings and I invested in my first company, the Billerica Green magazine. With the help of my amazing team, I printed 17,000 newspapers every month. We went into every mailbox in Billerica every month, free of charge to our readers, thanks to the local businesses who funded us through their advertising. Next to giving birth to 3 healthy babies, I consider this my greatest achievement. After a few years, because we got too big too fast, I made the decision to halt print operations. I wanted to be more of an equal financial contributor to my children's upbringing, and I knew I needed credentials to get behind my experience. So I went back to school for my master's degree in communications, which gave me the tools steadily climbed the corporate ladder very quickly. I went from a specialist to a manager to a director in just 6 years. Having a 21-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 15-year-old, it's a good thing because if there are other adult parents in the room who have older children, you can appreciate how expensive college tuition is. The absolute icing that has rounded out my joy has been finding the love of my life after 10 years of divorce and many failed attempts at finding love. I met my husband Phil, and we are going to celebrate our first wedding anniversary in May. Since I struggled and was humbly brought to my knees, I decided I wanted to help others, especially others who had been in the same position that I had been. I used my influence for good wherever possible, and I found some of the most fulfilling moments in my life. I became a media sponsor to small businesses and nonprofits when I was running the Billerica Green magazine. Wherever I worked, and if I had the power to hire small businesses, I would bring in local vendors to give them more business. As a business development director in a healthcare practice who hired many single moms in lower level positions, I took it to heart when they told me that they looked to me as an inspiration to do better for themselves. Any chance I got to buy them lunch, to give them rides, to move their requests up the channel of command, I did so because I was where they had been. I believe it takes hard work and perseverance to move ahead, but sometimes just getting a break once in a while can get you out of a difficult place. So in closing, I'll leave you with my favorite story, the starfish story. Some of you may notice I wear a starfish pin on the lapel of my coat. Well, this is why. There was a man walking onto a beach, and in the distance he noticed that the tide had washed hundreds, maybe thousands of starfish onto the sand. The waves had gone out quickly, leaving these starfish stranded and baking in the midday sun. In the distance, the man saw a boy who was repeatedly bending over and throwing something into the waves. The man got closer and he saw the boy was actually throwing starfish into the water, one at a time. He said to the boy, "What are you doing? There are thousands here. How could you ever make a difference?" The boy smiled, tossed another one into the water and replied, "Well, mister, it made a difference to that one." Always be the boy, because we can make a difference in this sometimes twisted world by simple acts of kindness, just one at a time. Thank you.